Flames trade rumors are heating up as NHL Insider Frank Seravlli has revealed Craig Conroy's master plan when it comes to trading up in the 2025 NHL Draft, and it sounds like the Flames are ready to move around a lot in the first round. Plus, what does the future hold for Connor Zary? We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and let's hop straight in and talk about this Seravalli report. So I know, already there's going to be skeptics. Already there's going to be people taking this report with a grain of salt, but it was spoken very recently, and this, not the comment of the day, a little spoiler, this is a little quote here from Frank Seravlli on Flames Talk. He said, "I think there is a real chance that we see one and or multiple of the top 5 picks traded, and I think the Flames a bit further down the draft board are going to be considering the same thoughts." Now, this is kind of a confusing quote in a way, in that it could mean one of two things. It either means the Flames would be interested in trading for one of those top 5 picks, one or multiple of those top 5 picks, or after the top 5, further down the board, the Flames are also thinking of trading away their first round picks. Now, there's a third option, and it means, I guess, both of the above, and it means the Flames could be trading away their first rounders to get into the top 5, but either way, it's a bit of a confusing quote. So if we get into what, of course, the public are saying about this, you always got to check the Reddit. So the Flames fan, they're saying, what is the context here? That the Flames are considering trading up into the top 5 or entertaining trading there first? Sort of a big difference, and there truly is. It would be a massive report if it showed that the Flames were trading into the top 5. And it would still be a big report if the Flames were trading away their first round pick, but does it truly reveal the master plan like the title of this video says? It's hard to tell, but maybe we need some clarity from Frank himself. Frank, if you're watching, please let us know. Chemical Signal, in response to that, said, "I interpreted it as the Flames would be looking to trade up, but not necessarily into the top 5. There's another way to look at it. A player like Jake O'Brien might be as good of a center as you can draft outside of the top 3 and could be available in the 8 to 12 range. I'm not saying he would be their target, but if a player like him fell into a range the Flames could trade up to, he's the kind of player you might trade up for." And that's true. This is another way you can look at it. The Flames could be looking to move around in the first round. Essentially, I guess, is another way to look at it, even if it's in that 8 to 12 range. So I thought that was very interesting to note as well. Here's another one. So Rob here says, "Seravalli is the clown of insiders." Rob's words, not mine. "Everything is a shock value statement, but designed to be vague at the same time so you can't come back at him down the road." And that's why he's one of the guys. He knows the tricks of the trade. That's why he's a successful insider. The quote doesn't even make sense. Is he hinting the Flames are interested? No, because he doesn't know. So he's phrasing it as the Flames are going to be having the same thoughts, whatever the hell that means. And true, that's a harsh comment, but it is a realistic way to look at it. What truly does Seravalli mean here? It doesn't necessarily mean that he can be wrong about the situation, but if it does end up happening, he can say, "I told you so," essentially here. So Aimless Sheet Ghost said, "This reads like we're thinking about trading our pick." That's one way to interpret it, and that's how I think most people are interpreting it, other than maybe the Flames are trying to acquire one of those top 5 picks. Surlyborn here says, "I assume this is inaccurate, but I think there are some first-line center potentials in the top 5. Flames desperately need one of those for the future." And they certainly do need one of those guys for the future. That's where everyone thought the Flames would be this season, would be picking top 5 after finishing bottom 5 in the league. So it is interesting overall. But let's take a quick look at one of the teams that the Flames could go after is actually Utah, but it's, again, I don't know about this one. So the Mammoth are willing to consider moving the 4th overall pick. Okay, stop there. Great news. Then get to the second part. For a young top 6 forward, we don't really have that to give up. I guess the only young top 6 forward we really have would be Matt Coronato, but a lot of people would call him a middle 6 forward. So at least we know the Mammoth are willing to move and could make something happen. Last offseason would have been the one to make a deal if they wanted a defenseman like Rasmus Andersson, but obviously we weren't going to trade him away last offseason, even though a lot of people thought we should. I remember the comments from last summer. But either way, that's one of the teams that could move, I suppose. Let's take a look at the first round draft order then and just kind of decide if we can make a trade with any of these teams. The New York Islanders somehow won the draft lottery. They would be insane to trade away the first overall pick. Sure, they're not as bad as some of these other teams, but they're kind of in that no man's land, the mushy middle, where a first overall pick could really change the trajectory for them. They can really decide what they want. If it is Schaefer on the back end, it would make sense, especially if they lose Dobson, but they could also go at one of those number one centers that they probably need and have needed probably since, the early to mid 1980s. I love John Tavares, but you know what I'm saying. Second overall, San Jose. I think this might be the most likely in the top 5 that we could trade up with. Just because they've had so many high picks lately, and maybe they'd want some later first rounders, just because they are really starting to build that core, that young core they need to build up, and maybe they'll want to have some veterans involved as well. The comment of the day will go over that. Chicago, I don't think is as likely to trade with, maybe more likely, obviously than the Islanders and probably the Mammoth, but I'm not seeing Chicago wanting to trade away that third overall pick. They need to get Bedard some help. Nashville, I really don't see them trading it either unless we take on some sort of cap dump or a few cap dumps to take that 5th pick from them. And the rest of the teams here in the top 10, I mean, you look at the Flyers and the Bruins, I would be shocked if either of them traded away their pick. Seattle, maybe. Buffalo could be likely. I think out of all the teams in the top 10, they might be the most likely to trade away that pick just because, they're looking for something to make the playoffs now, not another guy who will help them down the road. So I think that's the most likely one, but they would honestly ask a boatload because they always do, and then trades never happen for them, and then they never make the playoffs. Maybe you should learn something, Buffalo. And then Anaheim maybe would be willing to trade their pick, but I kind of don't think so. I think a 10th overall pick is perfect for where they are at right now and what they need. But again, anything could happen. Maybe the Flames will trade for all 5 picks in the top 5 and have literally nothing left over for the future. But either way, it could get very, very interesting. Now let's get into the Zary update. And I got to be honest, it's not really an update. It's more of just, I guess, talking again about what he's like, but it was inspired by this article here by Rupert McDonald, which did come out yesterday. One of the best writers out there for the Flames. So he writes Flames news and rumors, Zary, Prosvetov, Andersson, and more. We have obviously talked about all of these guys. Obviously, Prosvetov had pretty much his own video, and Andersson is the main guy in every other video, if not more. But let's go over the Zary part. So in this week's edition of Calgary Flames News and Rumors, Connor Zary is still looking for a contract extension. And that's what we're going to talk about. Meanwhile, Dan Villar's future with the Flames continues to remain unclear as the organization reportedly has their eyes on another goaltender. That was Prosvetov. And then, of course, Rasmus Andersson as well. And I like that he wraps up here that Michael Backlund received Selke Trophy votes for the 8th time in his career. Yes, he did get 3 votes, which is pretty cool, the highest Flame on the list. But of course, that's just becoming the Barkov Trophy, as we all know. But let's focus on Mr. Connor Zary. So, Zary extension remains a mystery. We still don't really know what we're going to get this summer. So the Flames have a few restricted free agents to re-sign this offseason, though the most talked about and perhaps the most confusing of the bunch is Connor Zary. The 23-year-old is a building block for the organization, but was limited to just 54 games in 2024-25 due to 2 separate knee injuries. I believe he finished the season with 27 points. The injury concern, along with the fact that Zary has yet to break out offensively after 2 seasons in the NHL, has some believing he should be signed to a bridge deal. And that's still the key in the Connor Zary situation this summer. That said, others believe that his offensive game could see a big improvement next year, making a long-term deal similar to what Matt Coronato signed 1 month ago a more beneficial option. I still think the bridge deal makes more sense for Zary for sure on a prove-it deal, and it might make more sense for the Flames as well because Zary's fantastic. I would love to have him around long-term, but they don't need another big contract because they still have other guys they will need to sign down the road, like a Zane Parekh. So overall, I guess that's a Zary update. It's more so just re-emphasizing what's going on and that it's still a mystery that we don't really know what to expect out of Zary's camp and the Flames camp this offseason when it comes to his contract. But hopefully they can get that locked up sooner than later, and it's a great deal for both parties, but preferably the Flames. It's a business after all. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video. I also love to do here on the channel. I know I spoiled it a little before, but it goes very well with what we were talking about earlier in the video about maybe what Conroy's master plan could be. And this was a great comment here from the Chris and Lawyer YYC. They said pick number 18, number 32, that's assuming Florida wins the cup, Rasmus Andersson, and one of either Grushnikov, Solovyov, or Muse to San Jose for pick number 2 overall. And there were some replies to this comment. I think that would be a great trade for the Flames. Anything to get the number 2 overall pick that doesn't involve Dustin Wolf or Zane Parekh. I mean, I'd take it. Out of those guys, I'd rather trade Grushnikov, to be honest. Solo seems to have a little bit of potential. Muse looks fantastic. So overall, I really do like this. I think that's a great way to trade Rasmus Andersson, especially with no retention involved. Not that he's on a big contract, but I would do this in a heartbeat personally if I were Conroy. And maybe he needs to make some phone calls. We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe like you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.